Hello again, my name is Ernest Minu. Let's settle for the details now. A 3-year-old boy has been hospitalized with severe wounds after his biological father allegedly whipped him with a belt and power cable for bedwetting. The child, identified only as Junior, is on admission at the Minsha Government Hospital in Kumasi, while the 30-year-old culprit, Ebenezer Osei Bonsu, is in police custody. Now, widespread public outcry has greeted the disturbing pictures of the boy's ordeal, which have since gone viral on social media. Love FM's Erastus Asaridonko visited the boy and his mother and also spoke to the police on this matter. Viewers are warned that the visuals could be disturbing.
Junior's body depicts a prisoner of war tortured in a concentration camp. Deep cuts and marks of assault spread over his back, hands and thigh, with 2 huge bumps on the forehead. As little as he is, Junior is able to narrate what happened to him.
What do you mean? And I didn't know the oh yeah. Sir, I didn't know the bull. Why are not the other day? But I do bone. What the bull?
Barb is Junior's 26-year-old mother who dated the child's father, a national service person, for about 7 years. The relationship collapsed because of what she alleges was physical abuse by the man.
Timi be fie kra no mu bisa me a ntimi nka no kre na ehye me ho ti bibia ne bufu a wachi o hini fo be ka o no na nam so a me ni jaye me se manhwe ya me hwere me nkwa me.
Ebenezer reportedly took the child on a weekly visitation and started abusing him. She says it took the intervention of police at Bokrum to rescue the child, despite attempts by the father to conceal the act.
Anytime when I called him, he refused to pick my calls. And I decided to go there and check on the child. But he said no. So I reported him to the police. So I came with the police and they took my son to the police station. Then that I know my son is several injuries on his body.
What did the child say happened?
Very disturbing story there. We'll be following up and bring you more in our subsequent bulletins. But away from that, the Ghana Tourism Authority has given the green light to operators in the hospitality sector to open up their businesses for operations. The authority, however, directs that strict adherence to social distancing protocols, among other containment measures announced by government, must be adhered to. Now, this means, with the exception of nightclubs, others such as hotels, drinking bars, restaurants, and any other eatery could operate. Now, this was contained in a statement and issued by the Chief Executive of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Mr. Akwesi Ajiman. Now, according to Mr. Ajiman, the directive is in tandem with the President's 9th address on COVID-19 on Sunday, May 10. And here on Newsdesk, we are asking who is ensuring strict adherence to the protocols that must be adhered to at all these facilities, and how safe are patrons of the sector as the COVID-19 pandemic persists and the cases keep soaring? Mr. Ajiman joins us via Zoom for more on this. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Newsdesk. Now, you say that this is in tandem with the President's directive on Sunday. I have been going through the speech and I don't quite recall exactly the President's directing for hospitality industry to be open. We know that restaurants have been operating, but how exactly, sir?
Okay, all right, I think, thank you. I believe when we refer to the President's speech, we're referring to EI 64, which is in force. And if you read EI 64 quite clearly, it's very clear which of the sectors can operate and which have to be on lockdown, if I should put it that way. And since the President address, we received a lot of calls, people wanting to find out whether they could operate, whether there are new directives. I believe when we had EI 65 during the lockdown, it was very clear that, for example, drinking bars were to shut down and all that. And so since we reverted to EI 64, I think there was some confusion, and this statement that we issued seeks to clarify that. We've sent the detailed ones to the operators, but in clear terms, if you look at EI 64, there were exempted categories, and the ones that have been asked to operate are within that exempted categories. We also realized that subsequent to that, there are new guidelines on, for example, no mask, no entry in some establishments. And it was very important that we come out with this to us, it will concretize everything that is happening in the sector.
We know that for restaurants, for instance, throughout the period, they have been given the green light to go ahead and work to prepare food for the general public, except that you cannot sit and eat at their the spaces provided. Is this allowed now per EI 65?
No. EI 65 was for the lockdown. It was during the lockdown period that we said you cannot entertain sitting guests. So you could only do takeaway and pickups. For EI 64, you could go ahead. But what we've added on is that you have to keep the social distancing. So yes, you can admit guests to come in, but you must ensure that the social distancing protocols are adhered to. One, you must ensure that your staff are wearing the necessary PPEs to prevent the spread of the disease if any of them are infected. So those are the things that we sought to clarify. So currently EI 65 has expired. EI 64 is in place, and that really allows for them to operate.
Let's talk about the enforcement of the protocols as outlined in the President's speech, but also in the statement that you issued. How are you going to ensure enforcement that indeed people are wearing their masks, people are washing their hands, and observing all the other protocols as expected?
No, we are part of the National COVID Task Force. That includes the Ghana Health Service, the military, the Ghana Police Service, NADMO, the ambulance, NCA and other agencies, FD and the rest. And so these directives, as issued to the public and also to the operators, have also been sent to the operational team. And so the police are very clear in their minds what they would expect if they, for example, get to a drinking bar. We also have inspectors who do the inspections for licensing and regulating these enterprises are also in town monitoring the situation. And we've also asked that the general public assist. So if you see any suspicious behavior and people are not adhering to these protocols, you can call into the national call center and then make some complaints, and then we'll follow up through that chain. Police, military, health service, and everybody that needs to know. So that's really what we're trying to do.
The issue of safety is also one that people are concerned about, especially for the hotels. COVID-19 has not left us. In fact, we see an increase in the case count. How advisable is it for hotels to operate within this period?
You know, we had hotels who were operating. Some hotels have long-term guests. So, for example, during even the lockdown, hotels were allowed to entertain their guests because there are some expatriates who are working in Ghana who are staying in hotels. And so you couldn't have asked them to leave the hotel. And so that has been a directive. And we also issued the protocols. So all the hoteliers are aware that you have to have, for example, in the public areas, hand washing, equipment, hand sanitizers, your front desk staff have to wear the mask and all that. So those protocols are there. And so far with the monitoring that we've done, we've seen that they are adhering to it.
So you're asking them to go back. I'm sure some of them will be listening to you this morning and say, yes, we'd love to go back, but we've been adversely affected by the lockdown. Business is not so good, and it will be difficult resuming business immediately. What is the help available to such businesses, and how can they return or resume operations immediately if there's any support?
We've been engaging the hotels. They are aware. Last week we had a meeting with His Excellency, the President. The Hotels Association was there. The Tourism Federation were there. There are several interventions that are ongoing. One of them is the NBSSI package, 600 million. And we've engaged with NBSSI, with the Tourism Federation and all the associations. Then also, we know of the 3 billion facility that is being arranged through the Bank of Ghana by the Ministry of Finance. And we are working very closely with the ministry, our ministry, and the Ministry of Finance on that as well. We also know of other smaller facilities and grants, for example, under the World Bank project that we are working. There's a grant component that is also looking at the sector. So these are some of the measures that we think will come to help alleviate or contain the pressures on business. By and large, we're also very hopeful that with some of the measures that we put in place, for example, the smaller operators like chop bars and restaurants will at least get some business to keep them going as we deal with the bigger fishes and the bigger challenges that confront us. And so it's still work in progress, but at least we have put certain things in place.
Yes, we are aware of all these measures that you have just reiterated, but the question for many is how soon can we access these funds? How soon can it hit our accounts, and how soon can it be made available so we can start operations immediately? You are in contact with the ministry, with NBSSI. What is the indication you are getting from them?
I think NBSSI have indicated to us that the process of application, everything will be 2 weeks, and then they hope that they can start disbursements in May. We are monitoring the situation. And like
we are in May. We are in May. Today is the 13th of May.
Yeah, so 2 weeks, we still have some 2 weeks to go, and I think things will come on stream.
Mr. Agyemang, we're wrapping up on this quickly. Some caution for the people within your industry and some tips on how they can revamp the operations in their businesses actually quickly.
I mean, I think we've taken a very serious view of what is happening. We know that our industry has been hit badly. We thank the operators for their cooperation so far in terms of adhering to the protocols that have been put in place. We've engaged them. Everybody is aware that where we are going. For example, there's an interministerial committee in place with our ministry, the Ministry of Aviation, Interior, and Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Business Development, looking at some of these issues. And I know that at the end of the day, we will all come together, work together, and find ways that we can bring the industry back on its feet. So we thank them for their cooperation so far, and we want them to keep hope alive.
Thank you very much. Kwesi Agyemang is the Chief Executive of the Ghana Tourism Authority. He joined us after issuing a statement directing all people in the hospitality industry to resume business, because this is in line with the provisions made by the President and also in accordance with law. But of course, he made mention that there's some support for businesses within that space to help them resume operations. Now, away from that, the Member of Parliament for Bokusa Central, Mahama Yariga, has said he feels haunted by Special Prosecutor over an ongoing corruption probe by the newly established office. According to the MP, evidence provided by the Office of the Special Prosecutor does not warrant the level of disdain expressed by the SP towards him.
He decides that he wants to prosecute me. I laugh at it because, really, the customs officers, they did the assessment of the duty. They assessed the duty. And so if you are prosecuting me in court, I'll bring them to come and testify. Did I come to them? No. As we speak, I still don't even know them. I only see their names on documents and correspondences, but I don't even know any of the customs officers personally. But we will subpoena them as witnesses. If I've ever approached them to even clear a vehicle, I've never. It's an agent. And you know, very interesting, all lawyers who are listening to us will tell you that you probably should not even be prosecuting me alone. You should be prosecuting me, the agent, and the customs officer. Because there's no way I, the owner of the vehicle, who never dealt directly with the customs officer, you can easily succeed in court against me when you haven't brought in the agent.
Yeah.
Unless you're saying that the agent will come and say, oh, the minister, the member of parliament, you know, induced me to go and corrupt the customs officer. And I can say on authority, that the customs officer did appear before the special prosecutor's office interrogators and indicated very clearly that they don't know me. They've never dealt with me, which is true.
Because they dealt with the agent.
They dealt with the agent. And they did admit that it is a common practice that sometimes they make mistakes in assessing the values of vehicles and the duties that should be paid on them. In spite of this evidence, my father still insists on prosecuting me.
Okay, so I need to ask, because you mentioned that it can't be because he's seeking justice.
Parliament, it gives you a loan that you should buy
the vehicle.
And then you choose that I'm buying 3 vehicles, I'm adding money to buy 3 vehicles. It's a loan, for God's sake. And I know on authority, and I believe this will be proven in court, that he wrote to the bank that gave us the loan, asking whether somebody who they extend a loan to can buy more than 1 vehicle.
What did the bank tell?
And the bank said, well, it's a loan we've given to the person. We are more interested
in repaying,
in the security. And the person has used his salary and his ex gratia as collateral. So whether he buys 10 vehicles or buys 2 vehicles, that's a matter
So
of
he has this evidence?
He has the communication from the bank. He has the communication from the bank.
So it begs...
So, I mean, I have just decided to keep quiet all this while because really, well, you sent me to court, let's go to court.
It begs the question, why would a father do that to a son?
And that's the question you should ask him. Go and ask him, why would you do that to somebody you describe as your son?
Yeah, he did. In fact, he was the first to say
He was the first to describe me as a son. So ask him, why would you do that to somebody you describe as your son? What is the basis?
You said in this interview that it can't possibly be because he's seeking justice. If that's not what it is, what it is? What is it? Because
knowing the lawyer that he is, okay, I assume that he also appreciates the fact that to proceed to, let's say, prosecute me on a charge of abuse of office for personal gain for branding a vehicle, knowing the lawyer that he is, I assume that he has to prove that I branded the vehicle or that the vehicle was branded on my instruction. Okay, but in a clear situation where I actually didn't brand it, I know who branded it, and I told her it was Mr. A who branded it. And you don't even make the effort to find out from Mr. A whether he branded it and why he branded it. Clearly to me, you're not seeking justice. You're not seeking to do justice.
What is it? What would you call this then?
Well, maybe a father finding a way to teach his son how to live and the lessons of life. I don't know, but I don't believe that that's justice.
Is it a witch hunt?
I feel hunted. There's no doubt about that. Whether he's a witch is another matter, but I feel hunted.
there's a close line. If it's not prosecution, it's persecution. Is it persecution?
I have no doubt that this is persecution.
And of course, you had there the Member of Parliament for Boko Central, Mahama Ayariga. Now, Ghana's High Commissioner to the UK and Ireland, Papo Nkrumah, has recovered after contracting COVID-19 early last month. In a statement from the Commission, he thanked all and sundry for their prayers and well wishes towards him and his family during the time of difficulty. Now, he says words cannot express the depth of gratitude, and he is fortunate to know that he has the love and concern of each and every one of us. And let's bring you details of that statement. You have that on your screen. It says, I am reaching out to you today as the world fights a significant battle against the coronavirus pandemic COVID-19. As most of you are aware, I tested positive for COVID-19 and was admitted to the Royal Free Hospital, London in April 2020. I count myself blessed to be counted among the living today based on my recovery from the horrific effect of the virus. I am grateful to all and for your prayers and well wishes to me, my family and staff of the High Commission during the difficult moments of recovery. Words cannot express the depth of gratitude, and I'm fortunate to know I have the concern of each and every one of you. I extend my deepest gratitude to the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who continued to show compassion during those difficult times. I'm also humbled to know that I can count on the continued support of the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration of Ghana, Honorable Shirley Ayoko Botry, MP, in many ways, particularly for the direction she gave to the High Commission to manage matters. And of course, those are excerpts of the statement from the High Commissioner to the UK and Ireland, Papo Nkrumah. Fortunately, he has recovered after being infected with COVID-19. Tomorrow is supposed to be the deadline for these missions to bring in the data, but you have received some already. You have received some already, and I'm wondering what the information you have already is telling you. The indication in terms of the caliber of people who are out there and the numbers. Can you share something with us?
Okay, so far, what we've received, we are having 3 categories. We have those who went on behalf of government. Government officials, I say government officials, not necessarily ministers. I'm talking about those who work within the ministries or government agencies who traveled on behalf of government. And as a result of the closure, they find themselves stranded. That's one. We also have those who traveled on their own, for tourism purposes. Okay. And they couldn't come in quickly, before the borders were closed. We also have those who claim that their employers took them, their private employers, and that the employers are prepared, to charter an aircraft once and to bring them in once we agree to open the borders. So far these are, and it's made up of all. We have journalists, we have pastors, reverend ministers, we have people in the entertainment industry. I hope you are aware. That's people like Sarkodie and co.
And Papi Kojo as well, stranded.
Yes, they are there. So many categories of Ghanaians, find themselves abroad. How
about students? I'm particularly interested in that.
Of course, yes, that's a very valid point. With the students, you also do realize that we have 2 categories of students: those who are there on government scholarships, and those who are there as private students. That's those who are paying for themselves. We've also had some requests, and for the list that have been given now, I've seen some countries where students are also saying that their parents are ready to pay for them to be brought back home. I've seen that list. I've also seen some who are there on government scholarship who've also indicated that once the opportunity avails itself, they would also want to be brought back home. So far we've seen some of these. But as we all agree, let's wait till Thursday, close of work on Thursday, for us to have the bigger picture, and then for government to use this as the basis taking any decision.
While we wait for that decision to be made, have we made any provision for support for some of these people who might have who are stranded and might have run out of cash, for instance? Because for some of the calls we received here at JoyNews, we have a group of people, I think 13 of them, who are in Ethiopia. They were traveling from Brazil, made a stop at Ethiopia, and they were expected to move to Ghana the next day, only for them to be told that the borders have been closed and the planes cannot move into the country. Initially, these group of people were housed by the mission there. They got some support. They were tested. They proved negative. And then for a few days, got some support by way of food. Now, beyond that, for the past few weeks, they have to fend for themselves. And some of them are young people who say they do not have money and they're really, really stranded. That is why I'm asking if the missions have been directed to support some of these people.
Ernest, thanks for this. At the last meeting that was held between the president, the president and the ambassadors and high commissioners, I remember this was one of the things that we did discuss. The foreign minister was so clear on this, that the embassies are there to seek the interest and welfare of Ghanaians. So that's one of our core mandates, as the foreign ministry, as the ministry, and by extension the ministry, or the missions or the embassies. Some of the embassies have written to us, seeking authorization to expend, money, for such contingency. And I don't know of this specifics because I remember that about 2 or so weeks ago, we got something from Addis Ababa where our ambassador wrote to us, requesting for authorization to expend some money, for some Ghanaians who were stranded. And I am sure because I remember that request was granted. So if we still have such a situation, then I'll quickly, get in touch with the embassy, our mission in Addis Ababa, find out what exactly the problem is, and see how we can meet the needs of Ghanaians there. Because that's what we are supposed to do. We are there, and we are supposed to seek the welfare and interest of Ghanaians. And
are they being asked to pay any form of money, any form of fee currently? Because the indication...
No. We've not asked anybody to pay any money. Nobody has been asked to pay a peso or a dollar. We've not asked anybody to pay any money. What we are asking, the data that we are collecting, is that, like I said earlier, some have called, and some are saying that they have their own money. Once we open the borders, they can, get their own means and get back to Ghana. Some are saying their parents are ready. Some are also saying that their employers are ready to start an aircraft. So these are all information that we would have in the data once we collect them. As of now, we've not asked anybody to pay. And even for those who even want to pay, they can easily go to any airline. If you have return tickets, say if you took KLM to where you are now, you can go with the return airline because we are not allowing commercial aircraft to come in, only special aircraft. So when that decision is taken to allow Ghanaians to come in, our mission, led by the ambassadors and high commissioners, would have to liaise with the airlines. Some have said that, okay, let's have one airline. We have some airlines that go to almost every country. And even these days, some of the airlines do code sharing. Can we have one airline when that decision is taken, to embark on this evacuation process? And if we do that, then we are talking about, lower cost as against, dealing privately with all these many commercial airlines. So these are all things that we are yet to make a decision on. So as of now, we've not asked anybody to pay any money. So if somebody is saying that somebody is asking him or her, to pay some money, then it shouldn't happen. That's not true. We've not asked anybody to pay any money.
Mr. Charles Oredu, thank you very much for your time here on Newsdesk. Let's bring you some more stories. A February wildfire which has swept through farms in Akpafu traditional area in the Biakuya district of the Volta region threatens livelihoods of residents. The perennial fire burnt over 100 acres of food crops, including cocoa, cocoyam, maize, plantain, cassava, banana, peanut, among others. The residents fear there might be a famine in the area if they do not receive some support to recultivate their farms. Fred Kwame Asari visited visited the farm and now reports.
David Nyavo is a qualified civil engineer who abandoned his profession to engage in cocoa farming in his home village, Akpafutoji. He managed to expand the farm from 2 acres to about 14 acres within the past 11 years. The survival of his family solely depended on proceeds from the farm. Unfortunately for him, a wildfire in the area ravaged the entire farm, burning all the cocoa fruits.
So around the 8th of February, we were in the community. We came here in the night to come and sleep in the farm here. But later, in the morning when we came home, coming back, we saw the farm burning. The farm was just burning like that. And because the topography, we couldn't control anything. So the farm just burnt.
The incident has left him wondering how his family will survive in the coming months.
Our foodstuffs, cocoyam, plantain, cassava, everything is off. In some few months to come, people will suffer.
The wildfire also destroyed several farms of residents in the Akpafu traditional area. These threatened livelihoods of scores of residents as they wholly depended on sales of their farm produce for survival.
So in my case, I left here around 10 a.m. in the morning because there was no water here. So before I returned around 3:30 in the afternoon, fire has destroyed the cocoa. So in fact, we don't know what to do, because all our resources here has been lost. We can't even provide for the kids because we all depend on our cocoa, because that is the only source of income we have.
I need cocoa, plant cocoa, about 5 acres of cocoa farm, 5 acres. Everything is in the farm. I'm very happy because the way I got to see every items of the crops in the farm, I'm very happy. So I put up myself together and do it more. In 2016, it got burned. Everything got burned. I say I'll never give up. I put myself together and we go back and do it. 2020, everything still got burned.
They therefore appealed for support from government and philanthropic organizations to help put them back into the farming business.
So we need supporters like MUFA, Cocoa Board and the government, if they can help us put back our farm back.
So if government can assist us, or any NGO can come to our aid to help us restart again or recultivate our farms, it will help us and the nation as well.
Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Akpafutoji.
Time to take a break here on News Text, but coming up in business, Ghana Association of Bankers kick against decision by Gibbs to end the fee waivers on mobile money transactions. Daryl Kwal has details after this break.
Welcome to Business. My name is Daryl Kwal. The Association of Bankers has kicked against the decision by the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System GIBS to end fee waivers granted to customers who use the GIBS Instant Pay Mobile Money Interoperability and ACH Direct Credit to transact business. The Bankers Association says any unilateral withdrawal of the waivers by GIBS during the period of the COVID-19 pandemic will be detrimental to their image and credibility, that is, of the banking sector. Meanwhile, a section of the public equally unhappy about this new development. They say the move may defeat government's agenda of going cashless.
I feel like it was a good initiative to take away the charges, but bringing it back, yes, because right now we are trying to save the economy. So if you have been able to take away the charges to make transaction easy and trying to bring it back, and we are also in an election year, I feel like yes, it's really going to affect business, because now the rate at which you can handle money is so risky. So we prefer to send money through electronic devices. And bringing back the charges, it will discourage people to do more of that.
In the past, we've realized that when people go to the shops to send monies, they already complain that the charges that they take from them is too much. They sometimes wish that from 100 cedis and below, you don't take anything. That is what they have wished in the past. And now that the government took it off, I think it's helping. That is helping. So I think reintroducing it won't help. I would wish it is taken off totally.
For the government to initiate the tax back again into that mobile money system, I would say it's something good, because at least the government needs a little taxes to do certain things, especially in this pandemic era. But the other way around, I will not take that one too as necessary, because sometimes the money you are having is not even enough for you to get some certain things. So I think they should hold on for a little while. Then we see how the economy goes. When we are stable with it, then you can bring back that taxes. So far as it's tax and being good, put into good use, I think it's a good idea to bring back.
I think introducing charges will be a deterrent, because around this time, people are not even making more income. So if you also try to charge them more, it becomes a deterrent to the community. So I will not encourage that.
The president needs to make a categorical statement. Say, listen, from now, the next 6 months, the next 2 months, the next 3 months. But when he said it, he didn't give any timelines. He just said it. So he can even come back the next day and withdraw it. You understand? He needs to come back again, give us a timeline. From today's date to maybe October, November, so and so date, when you are involved in the transaction because he wants to run the cashless system, no payment. Then we know, okay, this is what we are into. When you go there, you say, no, there's a law that says that from this date, so and so date, you are not paying. But what it was just a blanket statement. Okay, you are not paying. That's all. That is not fair.
Some reactions there from the public. That's it for business. We have some breaking news right after this break.
And some news just coming in right now is that the Supreme Court, by a majority decision, has held that Martin Amidu can continue as special prosecutor. Let's go to the phone lines now and speak with my colleague, court correspondent Joseph Akable, for more on this. Joseph, what is the court's decision, the majority decision, saying that regardless of his age, Martin Amidu can continue to occupy that office?
One of the major issues that came up and relates to whether the office should be considered as a public office. And one of the arguments that the Attorney General's office that defended this particular case said was that the office is a specialized agency, and so the court is responding that the retirement age required of public officers does not apply to that particular office, and so it proceeded to dismiss it. The majority decision in terms of those who ruled that a case be dismissed includes Chief Justice Kwesi Enin-Yeboah, Justices Bafo Boni, Sule Gbadegbe, Professor Shipote and Amegacha, and Kwal Agnes Doji, on the other hand, together with Justice Badegbe dissented. And so that makes it 5-2, and they dismiss the matter. Just a little recap, Joseph. What was the case of the former Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine? His point had been that at the time that President Akufo-Addo named Martin Amidu as special prosecutor, he was beyond the 60 years, which is the retirement age of public officers. And so he makes the point that once his office is an office that takes money from the consolidated fund, then it's a public office, which is the definition of a public office. And so if you are beyond the age of 60 years, then you cannot hold any public office. And so as far as it's concerned, Martin Amidu is not qualified to be special prosecutor. And so he had asked that first the court withhold the appointment. In fact, the case was found at the time that his name was announced as the special prosecutor. And so we said that they should have terminated this since he has been sworn in now. That appointment should have been terminated and have another person who is less than 60 years of age appointed to take over that office. But the court has disagreed. Now, you have been speaking with Dr. Dominic Ayine on his reaction to the court's decision. We can hear him now.
I say I am extremely surprised by the decision of the court today, dismissing my writ by 5 to majority in favor of the Attorney General. As you would all recall, this was a writ challenging the appointment of Mr. Martin Amidu as a special prosecutor, and the basic argument of the writ was that Mr. Martin Amidu, at the time of his appointment, was 66 years old. And by the Constitution, especially in Article 199 of the Constitution, I argue that he is above the age for appointment into the public service. And my point was that the Office of the Special Prosecutor falls squarely within the public services of Ghana. And at the age of 66, he was above the mandatory age of retirement of 60, and then also the voluntary age of appointment on contract of 65. And so I'm at a loss as to why the court today said that, my writ has been dismissed. But the court didn't give any reasons, and said that we could apply for the reasons, given by the judges in the majority and the minority from the register of the court. So until then, I'm unable to say why. Yes, I must say I am extremely surprised.
And so that is Dr. Dominic Ayeni, who filed the issue at the Supreme Court. Joseph is still with me on the line. Joseph, I wonder what the reasons were for those judges who dissented. What exactly are their reasons?
All those are part of the full judgment that the court says will be available tomorrow. And so we're expecting that once we're able to get a judgment tomorrow, we understand what thinking went into the court's decision to classify the office as not being a public office, and also why two other justices were of the view that, this is not a matter that has to do, it has to do with a public office, and so he should have been removed from office. And so all those are fine details that once the decision comes, we'll get access to. Was Mr. Amidu himself in court today? No, in fact, in the early days of the case, when the case was filed, Mr. Amidu was named as a defendant in this particular matter, but the court struck him out as the defendant. The court was of the view that it's a case that the Attorney General should be able to defend because it relates to the office and not related to the individual per se. There's questions being raised of an appointment that has been done by the executive, so the court doesn't think a public office or someone who has been appointed to serve in an office should be defending this particular matter. And so the Attorney General's office defended Mr. Amidu in this particular matter and argued that indeed he was eligible to hold office as special prosecutor. And have we heard from the AG's office already? We haven't got comments from the AG's office yet. Joseph, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on this story that has just come in, that the Supreme Court has held Martin Amidu can't continue to hold the office of Special Prosecutor. That's it for News Desk. Up next is JoyNews Interactive with Najeli. Stay tuned in.